Dabur India has clarified that the products in its masala portfolio are not sprayed with ethylene oxide in the domestic market, while its use in international market is within the prescribed limits. The Dabur management comments came after the recent ban on Indian spice blend market leaders MDH and Everest in both Singapore as well as Hong Kong due to elevated levels of cancer-causing pesticide ethylene oxide. Now, Dabur's masala portfolio consists of the Badshah brand, has not been banned anywhere just as yet. Remember, following the development in Hong Kong and Singapore, the US Food and Drug Administration and Australian Food Safety Authority have put Indian spice firms under the scanner. The Food Safety Standards Authority of India, FSSAI, has also ordered a nationwide testing of all spices of all brands in India. And this, of course, comes in the wake of the fact that both Singapore and Hong Kong has banned at least 5 blends of spices from both MDH as well as Everest. Karthik, it is sort of awakening here in India, and this is not for the first time. We keep talking about that cough syrup, that eye drop, and now spices.
You're right. I think, it obviously doesn't do any good to brand India. If anything, pretty much just the opposite. Now, multiple points to consider here. Number one, I think the biggest question mark right now is on the, on the staffing and on the ability of the Spices Board of India. So, a report that I was reading this morning suggests that the Spices Board of India actually has a vacancy yet to be filled, which comprises, a number as high as almost a third of the total vacancies. So, out of the 350-60 odd vacancies that, staffing that is required to run the Spices Board of India, a third of that continues to be vacant. There are a total of only 9 testing centers in all of India where these spices are tested. So, number one, do we really need wake-up calls like these to ensure that that our regulators and the authorities whose only job is pretty much to govern the quality concerns around products of all kinds continue to remain understaffed? Number one. Number two, India's overall spice market is at about $4 billion or so, a little over $4 billion per annum as total export revenue that comes into India. To look at it, for an economy which is likely to touch the $4 trillion mark, $4 billion is just a very, very small amount. But to put it into context, $4 billion worth of export revenue coming in is pretty much half the import bill of Russian oil, which was at under $8 billion. So, it's pretty much offsetting half the oil that we imported from Russia in terms of the dent on current account deficit. So, it's an important number.
Commodity, an important number.
Absolutely, it's an important number. Then look at the overall markets to which India exports spices. I think India's biggest export market for spices happens to be not Hong Kong, not Singapore, not even US, but China. So, about 50% of India's total spices which are exported out of India go to China. The number 2 on that list happens to be the United States. But strangely, for the last many years, Europe does not feature in India's list of spice export markets because Europe has consistently been raising quality concerns on India's food and agri exports to that market. So, while ethylene oxide and blended masalas is a new sort of, discovery of potential plausible contamination, overall India's food exports haven't been received very well on qualitative terms from developed markets including Europe. So, it's definitely a wake-up call and a wake-up call I believe a little too late because these are institutions which need to be proactive and not reactive in addressing concerns of quality.
All right, and FSSAI as well as Indian Spice Board currently looking at all spices, batches of it domestically as well as those ready for export to understand the levels of ethylene oxide and whether they are within the permissible limit.